this is the unboxing video for Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, a new release from Fantasy Flight Games. Back in the Cthulhu universe. Let's get rid of this cellophane and see what's inside. The artwork looks nice. We've got some, well, nice is probably not the right word, but we've got worm tentacles attacking a jeep full of investigators or something. I have had some experience with this universe. I've played Mansions of Madness and Eldritch Horror in the past, but this is a new game to me. On the back we've got a graphic of what the game looks like. Interesting, we've got some pentagon tiles instead of a normal square or hexagon tiles, and obviously there's some type of movement in between. But on the back of the box it's 1 to 6 players, which I'm quite excited about. It's always nice to get a game that's not designed for 3 or 4 players. You can get some more friends around the table. But interestingly, for a game like this, it plays in 2 to 3 hours, and I'm curious to see how well it keeps our attention at the table if we're playing for 3 hours on this quite thematic game. In the box we've got a Learn to Play, which I always find useful. Fantasy Flight are well known for releasing 2 rule books, a rule book and a tutorial book, and it's no different here. The artwork on this is quite different. This looks like a Winter Wonderland scene, and all the rest is very much Cthulhu, and that seems quite tame by comparison. And there's a quick reference guide on the back of that book. And we've got a bundle of 6 counter sheets there, all wrapped, and the art on these is just fantastic. Fantasy Flight always do a great job with their components, and there's similarly excellent quality appears to be here. I'll come back and open up the cellophane there on that bundle and we'll see what they punch out like, but I have no doubts they'll be fine. We've got the standard Fantasy Flight trench here. I'm really not a fan of these. They just are dead space in the box as far as I'm concerned. However, I do understand if there are going to be expansions in the future, then you've got that space to store all the components in the same box, which is nice, but it's just difficult swallowing that fact at the base game. And interestingly, we've got a whole deck of cards. Obviously there are multiple decks of cards in there, just wrapped up in a Ziploc bag, which is nice. So you don't need to fight with the cellophane or those vacuum wrapped packs of cards. So I'll need to separate those out into their right decks, but I actually quite like the way that's been packaged there. It makes it easier, I think, to unpack and get ready. Unusual. We've got some character bases, and we've got 6 dice there. Slightly smaller dice than I would like, but perfectly functional for this game. And you're doing something quite wrong if you don't have some dice that you can substitute in. If you consider yourself a gamer and you don't have a drawer full of dice somewhere in your house. In here we've got some character cards or investigator cards, and double-sided, so there may be some spoilers on the back. I won't look at those too closely till I've gone through the rules, but we've got some different ones. These may be boss monsters or scenarios. Yeah, they're probably scenarios. So it looks like you've got 4 scenarios in the base box with a description of how they're laid out on the back of those scenario cards. And then we've got some more decks of cards, similarly packaged in just a Ziploc bag. And I think more publishers should do that. I like that. And if I just open up this one, there looks to be about 7 or 8 different types of cards in here. I don't know if this is all one deck or not. These are different locations, it looks like. So as you go into a location, maybe you pull a location card to see what happens. Not sure. But there's a nice thick stack of cards for locations there. And then we've got another similarly sized stack of cards, and it looks like they're just more location cards. Oh no, not quite. We've got that deck ends there, so it's a good sized chunk of location cards. And then we've got, so Fantasy Flight are quite keen on doing double-sided cards, or multi-purpose cards that once flip do something and reveal something. So we've got a different deck of cards there with a newspaper on them, and then there's another deck of cards there with a house, a fractured house on them. So it's odd that the art is fully realised there, and then on this deck we've got a iconography, which seems a bit incongruous, but never mind. I'm sure once I'll start playing this game it will all make sense. But yeah, we've got the trench, that's the last thing in the box. I'm always a bit wary these days of pulling the inserts out, because sometimes the legacy theme of hiding stuff around in boxes seems to be quite prevalent, even amongst non-legacy games, and we end up with some spoilers if we pull the insert out. But normally I get rid of those trench inserts from Fantasy Flight. They're just annoying once you've got all the components unpacked. So we'll just have a quick look at these counter sheets. We've got those, those are hexagonal area tiles. I said they were pentagons, they're actually hexagonal, which makes a bit more sense in terms of the game, but I'm sure the big ones will punch out nice and cleanly, quite firmly attached. Oh yeah, that's coming out nice. I think, let's have a look at that one a bit close. So it's really smooth. A few chits there, but really smooth and really nice artwork. Nice big counter there. They can really cram on a lot of nice detail on that. Each terrain tile seems to have 3 different regions on it, and each region has got different icons I'm looking forward to seeing. And they are double-sided, so we've got Downton and North Side. So with the number of terrain tiles we've got, is it 6 terrain tiles double-sided? That gives us an options of 12 different terrain tiles to play with in the game. And then around each terrain tile on these counter sheets we've got a plethora of tokens. Fantasy Flight never shy away from using multiple decks of cards and multiple different types of tokens. So if I had to guess, I would say this is a wound token and these are sanity tokens, just based on my play of Mansions of Madness. And then we've got some type of portal here, and some eldritch signs and other types of tokens indicating some sort of bonus to your players or damage to your players. And then finally on the last counter sheet we've got a card tray. So this will have to be made up. I don't think it's integral to the gameplay, but I do like it when publishers go to the effort to design game aids in the game, so you don't have to go and make them yourself. There is you can just see it on the side there on the box, what that will look like. So there's a deck of cards in there. I don't know what type of deck of cards it is, but we'll work it out. And you can read my review of Arkham Horror 3rd edition at a Wargamer's Needful Thing.co.uk. Once I've experienced a few of these scenarios, I'll give you my review. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.